This talk is hosted by CPPR Center for Strategic Studies, which deals with areas broadly encompassing international relations, India's foreign policy, defense and security. Professor KC Abraham retired as Professor of Political Science from Department of Economics at Sacred Heart College, Tehran. He is an orator, a writer of contemporary, regional, national, political and social issues, and also serves as academic director at CPPR. CPPR is organizing this webinar on US presidential elections in the light of pandemic. The discussion during the webinar will touch upon the issues like pandemic, social unrest, political upheaval, foreign policy, China, and among others. I request all the participants to mute their systems and notify us through the chat box in case you have a question. We will call out the names later in the discussion. Sir, the international system is a system of anarchy where self-help, security dilemma, and conflict are order of the day. However, with a complex interdependence, as a result of globalization, the crisis, events, or outbreak of a virus, as in the present case, from one part of the country to another is going on in no time. And with the growing interdependence, the free movement of people across the borders, the chances of getting embroiled in any crisis always looms large. So starting our discussion with the pandemic itself, sir, you see, United States of America, Brazil, India, they lead in the most number of coronavirus cases reported in the world. Taking United States for instance, the death rate has been reported at 150,000 deaths reported so far and 4.4 million reported cases. This outbreak is showing no sign to stop and there is no flattening of curve to be reached anytime soon. Sir, with less than 100 days until the 2020 elections, Americans are deeply unhappy with the state of the nation. As the country struggles with the pandemic and economic recession, political injustice, police brutality, racial injustice, the public that is not satisfied with the government. And it has been shown by the recent reports by the Pew Research Center that 31% of the population which was satisfied with the government in April during the early days of the pandemic has come down to 12% so far. So how do you see things unfolding from here on? Yes, sir.
It is very interesting, and this election also, America has a problem. It's an interesting spectacle in the American elections in recent times has been that elections are influenced by the domestic issues, domestic problems, and domestic questions. Unlike in the 20th century elections. And one more interesting aspect of American election is it is fought on a platform of negativism than positivism. For instance, in the 2016 elections, Trump, he came as a man of anti-establishment. He was critical of the government system, the power center in Washington, then the economic policies followed by his predecessor. So he was critical of everything, probably that fancy the American politics. And he got elected against all types of predictions. Maybe it was a surprise to the general public. This time also, you have an enemy, so you have somebody to fight with, fight against. That's pandemic. I think pandemic is going to be the core issue of American election this time, unlike before. The deadly disease which has affected the Americans mostly, supposed to be most powerful nation in the world. And it is something strange and people question it. Why and how is that the American government with all its first-class technology could not arrest the spread of the disease? It so happened. Then the resultant economic problems, the recession, something that can be equated with the Great Depression of 1935. Naturally, this is going to affect the judgment of the American voters in the next election. And Trump deliberately, as he cannot claim much of his achievement, he has pulled in what is called the China factor. He's a man of the blame game. But everything he put the blame on somebody. We as the Chinese virus. They have exported the virus to America, and so that's our problem. But I don't think so far the Americans have taken it rightly. They are right to believe that because they experience what is happening in the country.
Sir, coming back to the presidential context, Donald Trump faces 10 percentage point deficit in the race against Joe Biden. 54% of the registered voters say that if the elections are held today, they will vote for the Joe Biden or they lean towards the Joe Biden. And only 44% say that they will support Donald Trump or they lean to support Donald Trump. And with the changing political and the social dynamics in America, these developments may change November verdict. Here, sir, I want to note that one more thing, that Hillary Clinton was leading the approval ratings, but eventually she lost the election. So do you see there is a repeat of happening that again, or will things change?
I don't think we can equate with the condition that changed the vote of, or shifted the vote of Mrs. Clinton to Trump, or she did not get the expected number of votes. Maybe we will discuss it. But the situation can change. Chapter public memory is very short. What happens just a few days before the election will affect their judgment. That is everywhere in every democracy today. So suppose that toll comes down, if the pandemic is on recession towards the end of August or in the beginning of September, naturally the economy will pick up, the employment also will pick up, the unemployment rate which is more than 10% today. If that recedes, if the rate comes down, and the disease also, if there's a decline in the number of deaths and affection. Plus, Trump being a very, very cunning man, that is his personality, he will try to make some law and order issue. Or some law and order issue may take place in his favor. For example, if there is another burst out of racial crisis, racial protest, he will transform it as a law and order issue. And he will use it to his advantage by uniting a sentiment of the white Americans against the African Americans. So if all these factors work together, but these are not in favor of him now. In fact, even more than half of the Americans, they support the Black Matter movement. So it is not like that. You cannot say that the white mind is against the African American. No? So when a good part of them, a good number of them support the cause, that is called the systemic racism in America. If the situation changes due to the factors I said, I think Trump may come back and he may win. I'll give you another opinion poll conducted by the CNN. It is not a big margin between the two candidates. According to their survey, Biden he leads Trump by 49 to 46%. And in the electoral college, while he is projected to get 289, Trump is likely to get 249. So a swing of 2% of vote can change the result. It could be a different result. So personally, I don't like to predict anything. With the present conditions, we can say that now the conditions are against Trump. Biden, he is likely to win.
Okay, coming back to this question again. So that means the reports that are 10% percentage deficit, or they're neck to neck right now. So you mean to say that things might change or it may not change, because he can win the electoral college like last time. Hillary Clinton won the popular vote, yeah, right? But even if you had not the popular vote, but he still won the election. So again, this time this might also happen. That popular vote may go to the Joe Biden because of the conditions that are there in the country, and electoral college, because as the CNN is showing 289 to 47, not much of a difference. As you said that things might change because it's just 2% of the percentage of the swing, right? So how do you see this thing? Will it be the same or not?
You see, there are certain uncertainties or the possible certainties. Now itself, informed sections in America and abroad, they are afraid that there could be certain manipulations in the electoral process and procedure. For example, now in many states, voting registration is not allowed on the election day. Well, I think 13 states have already passed a legislation which makes voter ID compulsory. Then the second issue is, if the pandemic continues, there may not be a manual voting. So that has to be replaced by mail-in voting, post ballot we have in India for certain people. This is already opposed by Mr. Trump. He said that there can be a lot of frauds in the mail voting. Then, if there is a mail voting, the other problem could be, on technical ground, such votes can be denied. And this may be the vote of the African Americans or the other less educated or vulnerable section of the society, which will favor Trump. So these kind of manipulations are possible. Then another fear This is what I fear, that there is already this doubt being aired in America. Election could be postponed. There is the law as such that election can be postponed under ordinary circumstances. But if the Congress passes a law to that effect, and if the president signs, of course he is likely to sign it, it can be postponed. But I don't think under the present condition that is again possible in America, postponing an election. So if an election takes place, and again there could be a lot of litigations, taking the issues to the court on so many issues. So the counting would be delayed. We do not know what will happen. The president may refuse to resign. But already Biden has said if he doesn't resign, the army should kick him out. A lot of uncertainties are there in the air. I think that is unprecedented in the history of American election.
Sir, coming back to the administrative response to the pandemic, we have seen it is not adequate enough, and it can also be witnessed by the death count and the number of cases, rising number of cases. So, do you think it will affect his candidature because numbers are rising, death count is rising? Will it affect his candidature?
Surely, you mean his success?
Yes, yes.
I think his defeat will be ensured by that. The condition remains the same or if the situation worsens. It is not just the pandemic alone, because in America so many people die every year. That's what he claims. But the way he handled it, he doesn't like to trust the scientific community. He ridiculed the medical community. And maybe what he is, because of that, he just, make fun of everything and everybody. Instead, as a true president of America, if he had taken a positive step and helped the state governments in facing the challenge, helping them to overcome, I think Trump would have been in a much, much stronger place, even if the condition worsens. If he had taken a very, very reconciliatory attitude, very, very helpful attitude towards the state governments, I am sure Trump would have been in a very, very strong wicket. So remember, it is not only the pandemic as a disease, but the resultant deterioration in the economy of the country.
Yes.
So you have to read, you have to take into consideration these two developments. Maybe Trump is more interested in the economy, the business, than the lives of the people. Yes, you have to respect both the life and the living. That is his predicament. Or he may be too ignorant. It's a problem.
Sir, coming back to the issue of China, also, the recent closure of Chinese consulate in Houston in America, and it was reciprocated by Chinese in the Chengdu, the closure of the US consulate in Chengdu, and it coupled with already existing trade war, and what about the origin of the virus? So, do you see China factor also playing a role in the election, or is it again going back to Russia's involvement? Do we see a change now from Russia to China?
There are allegations about the interference in the election process in America. Today there are more than one country, not only Russia, China, Iran, North Korea. But I don't know how that can be substantiated. Maybe the American system itself defeated the exposure of Russian invasion into the American invasion process last year. That is the built-in weakness, I think. Or they should have brought it out. There was a lot of talkings going on that the American cyber technicians, they had to do the email of Mrs. Hillary Clinton. And lifting the support that she was getting. This time they put the onus on China. They say China is interfering. I think this is also a phobia that the American political establishment create. Personally, I can't think how is that a well-informed society like America, a very vibrant economy, can be influenced by an outside force. I don't know, I have a lot of observation on this accusation. But otherwise, China has become an issue. See, the Chinese growth and China's growing economy has made it a big power. It has made it an ambitious power, not confined to the Asian region alone. It is slowly growing to the outer world, other than Asia. This really threatens the position of America. If America can do business with China since 1980s till 1990, what happened? Naturally, they are proved to be a threat. So they have to check the Chinese growth. As they say, the hegemony of China. So this Beijing tower has become a debate, a point of debate. Even Biden is compelled to take the issue.
Yes, sir. There are two issues which I also think, that both, either if it is Biden or for that matter if it is Trump, right? They are same thing. One is on the, as we say, on China itself, both in terms of the political side as well as on the economic side. Trade, obviously, both the Biden camp as well as the Trump camp, they have hawkish, strategies placed in there, or very strong reservations regarding China. But on the security side, if I say, on the political, geopolitical side, I would say, the China's expansion across the globe, with its ambitious Belt Road Initiative project, you see the Silk Route, the Maritime Silk Route, the Chinese expansion in the South China Sea, and its continuous involvement in the Indian Ocean region also. Somewhere, I think the Americans are threatened by that, because America till now, or till very recently, I would say, they were the main power, or they were the major superpower having control of all the oceans. But with China coming on board, they are challenging the supremacy of America. Yeah. So, in this particular election, either Trump coming to power, or for that matter, Biden coming to power, the policy with respect to China will remain same.
I think so, because so much bitter feeling has already been walked between the two countries. It may take a lot of time for them to reconcile. This external factor, it has an implication on the American internal politics. This was very alive, this was very important, this has been very influential of the American politics in the 1980s and 1990s. Because America happened to be a world power. After the 1991, say the end of the Cold War. It became almost a unipolar world, and America has been asserting its dominant position in the world. With the rise of China, it slowly began to be challenged. They came to realize that there is another power coming up. And that is, I think, that is partly due to the making of American University. Because Trump, with his rhetoric like first American army should come back. We should fight for our country, not for the freedom of others, like that. A kind of isolationist policy. American leadership was losing in the world system. Secondly, it was rather an unwise act for America to get out of the world institutions, the world negotiations, the climate agreement. He simply walked out, President Trump.
I'm coming to that question, sir.
Then, okay,
Sir, we'll talk about it. Sir, coming to the now on foreign policy level, the issue of Iran nuclear deal, joint comprehensive plan of action, or for that matter, the troop withdrawal from Afghanistan. What do you think will be the strategy of the new president, or if Biden comes to power, or we can see, or we will be seeing the business as usual going on with respect to these countries, having the same attitude of leaving the Iran nuclear deal, withdrawing troops from Afghanistan, and not thinking on the context of what will be the security implication for a region like South Asia.
I think if it's a new president, he'll have a new foreign policy. I'm sure if it is Biden, he will recast American position in the world system. He will recast. There will be more an active role for America to play in world politics. He has already committed himself to the climate agreement, and he talks about the need of clean energy. Then he is very positive in outlook. In exercising the foreign policy by accommodating even the adversary. Yes, we will negotiate with Iran again. Then, Trump walking away from the World Health Organization. Sorry, I forgot to mention it. Walking out of all the world forums, where you having a prominent figure. America has been having a paternal figure in many of the world forums. They committed suicide on that position. I think they should not have done it. So Biden, he will be cast. He will replace American position in the world politics system. Maybe about China, if the American regime, America has a well-entrenched system, which even Trump cannot overcome. As far as their foreign policy relations are concerned, I am afraid, whether it is Trump or Biden, it could be the beginning of another world war, Cold War. Sorry, not World War, a Cold War. Because China is already being cast as a what is called a hegemonic power enemy. So you have Russia and its allies. Today it may be only China, but there's a rival. So it could be the coming back of another era of Cold War.
Sir, sorry,
You want to say something on Afghanistan?
yes, sir.
Yeah, I think American sentiment is for withdrawing from.
Because I was reading one report, it was saying that even Joe Biden is for troop withdrawal. But it has to be seen what is the policy in place. If you are removing, withdrawing troops from Afghanistan, what is the policy in place? How are you alternating that? It is not still clear. Same they are doing with the present Middle East peace plan or peace for prosperity, prosperity for peace plan by Americans in the Israel-Palestine conflict. So we have seen a stark difference between the Democrats and the Republicans, and that too, I can say that Donald Trump and the Joe Biden. It has been said that people argue that Joe Biden will follow the Obama era policies, Obama era, sort of working policy making and all these things. Even Europe, for that matter, is against the notion of Trump withdrawing from the Iran nuclear deal. But with Biden coming to power, or Biden if he is elected, I think things can go back to what they were. But it needs to be seen what will be the future of the region per se. Because every president which comes in the White House, they have very different policies with respect to the Iran, Afghanistan, Israel-Palestine conflict. So do you see that the Joe Biden, I mean, these are the reports that I said, but do you feel that Joe Biden will follow the Obama era things, or he may change his strategy with the change in the global system, the global politics?
You mean to say that more active American involvement in one
It can be active, it can be passive. It can be indirect, it can be direct.
or it will be more of a kind of, or he also will be affected by this withdrawals. You see, when you create a riddle, it is difficult to get out of it. Like you say, Indian epic story, Chakravarti is there. So in Afghanistan, it is not easy for America just to find a way out. It's extremely difficult because you see the irony. They have been the proponents of Taliban. Taliban is something. I don't think that will be any dispute about it. For any reason, yes, in Afghanistan. And now they have become uncontrollable. And they even terrorize America. The irony is that American government has to negotiate with them for peace in that region. Then in the Middle East, I think it is going to be a bit more delicate. All the former American presidents, they were rather taking the Palestinian cause also into consideration. But Trump, he has been losing union. He has been acting unilaterally. Just aligning with the Israeli advocacy. I should call it the Israeli advocacy.
Yes.
By recognizing Jerusalem as the capital, then keeping quiet when Israel makes its predatory attack on the West Bank. Very much against the international convention and UN resolution. So, how can America play a sober or a trustworthy role here? I would like to call it the America has to win back the trust of nations. Winning back that trust is a bit difficult. During Trump administration, I am afraid the trust was lost.
Yes.
what he used to make, everybody was looking at America with a kind of suspicion. You see, the latest news being American withdrawal of its troops from Germany. So the Europeans, they are also losing confidence in American leadership. An American argument is, I don't think it is not plausible. It has its own reason. Why should they spend a huge amount for the security of other nations? Anyway, it could have been after a necessary negotiation and to the conviction of the allies.
Sir, coming back to the issue of growing isolationism and the sheer disregard of multilateral institutions, which has been the primary approach of this administration. So can we say that if Biden's come to power, there will be change in American approach towards its allies and towards the multilateral institutions or not?
You mean international institutions?
Yes, like WHO is there. So, okay, on the issue of that withdrawal from WHO, the climate treaty, Trans-Pacific Partnership, which Donald Trump has withdrawn from each and every one, that has been his administrative policies with respect to these international institutions.
Surely, just already committed to the return of America to these international bodies and discussions and negotiations. He said he will be back to the climate meeting, will join the WHO and surely re-enter into discussion, negotiation with Iran. I think he has a different policy that is welcome because you cannot have a world system in modern times. You already have a pandemic to fight with. To create eternal enemies. So, how America can work towards a better world, not a world of fear. And because you maybe in the deeper, if you go deep into the matter, some people may be inclined to say that America needs crisis. Because yes, their economy is being very much related to the military industrial complex. But there can be change. I think Biden will make a change. He will work for a better world. He will work for a sober America. Not a fearing America. A sober, a paternal America. I believe so and I hope so. Because his personality is such.
He will work for again the global leadership of America.
Yeah. Such a leadership only will be respected by other nations.
Sir, talking about India, coming to India, in the context of India, the issue of H1B1 is debated and is being debated in the country here also, in America also. How do you see that issue unfolding, and how do you see the future of India-America relations? Both. If Trump is coming to power, what will be the relation? And if Biden is coming to power, what is the relation? What will be the relation?
I don't think there will be any change. No, there cannot be any substantial change in the nation-to-nation relationship between India and America. It is well entrenched. As India has become a strategic partner of America, I think America is very happy with India's policies. Then about the visa policy, I don't think it is going to be a very disturbing. It is going to be an irritant in the relationship between the two countries. Do you know why this is a problem with America now? Even Biden, he has said buy American. Yes.
It's again same like,
Yes.
America first, buy American.
Yes. So almost he is speaking in the same tone as Trump was criticized. I think they are compelled to be more nationalistic than internationalistic. The economic sector, as well as the world economy is concerned. And he has gone to the extent of saying that the federal government will buy those things which are manufactured by the American companies in America. So it's a kind of economic jingoism or economic nationalism. Maybe they are compelled. And he also has asked American companies and manufacturing companies to buy to America, give job, and you will be protected. So this is inevitable, I think. This is inevitable. At least for some time, at least for some years, any American president has to be more nationalistic from the economic point of view than to be an ardent supporter of, or even, sorry, pioneer of globalization. This is again an issue that I think we should discuss much more.
This was, from my side. So now we are open for the questions. I request all the participants here. If you have any questions, please ask us. You can ask us on Facebook Live. You can ask us on chat box itself, or we have the Google Forms itself. Sir, there is a question by Shubham said, considering how much rage people have against China around the world, it's mostly Trump who is publicly being so outspoken about the wrongdoings of the China. And what steps US plan to take to reduce the Chinese economic dependence? And with this aspect of being vocal Trump being vocal, and will it help in garnering support in America? He's been very outspoken. So speaking on China again and again, will it make a difference?
Yeah, he is very outspoken when he speaks, but that may be very rude. Without, he was a friend of China till last year, and he has been doing business with China. Do you know there was an agreement, trade agreement with China, and the first phase was already on. According to that agreement, China had, it was a concession to the American export. China agreed to buy more American-made goods than before the first phase, and second phase it was to augment. But of course, even the first phase could not take off because of the pandemic. Trump is, I think he is compelled to speak against China. Then he has an ideological difference with China, because he may not be knowing the ideology itself. He has to put the blame on somebody for his inefficiency, his mismanagement. So, he put the blame on China. Plus, when the American economy is weakening, again he has to put the blame on somebody. He cannot go on putting the blame on the previous administration. He tried to put it on Obamacare for the pandemic infection in America. These are funny things. So when he speaks, what is called very openly, doesn't mean it's very sensible. The situation compels him to be so. These are rather an excuse than a reasonable justification of what he is doing or what is happening. I think so.
Okay. So there is another question. JC Anthony, they are asking, do you think America has a hidden agenda on saving of the pensions by not caring for elderly and letting them die due to COVID?
Sorry, I don't think so. There may be a comment made by some people that America doesn't care the old. It is not deliberately made single point. It's a part of the policy of America and its aftermath. It's not that America deliberately make a policy or they have such an attitude for them to die. Because the care homes, they live together and their health is they are not well taken care of. Their health was not well taken care of, and it was a crowded place. There was not enough staff and resources. That is part of the American problem, health care problem. It's not like letting the old people die. But this was, hearsay. The people above 60 and above 10, they were called as the economic unproductive age. So even if they die, it doesn't matter. We want a very economically viable, very healthy population to survive. Could be argued so, but I don't think that could be the fact.
So there is another question by Sudhan Subala. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Sudhan Subala Sahu is saying, do you see this as war against China engineered by USA? This pandemic, I would say, this virus, I think he's referring to virus itself.
So war of America against China.
Yes. And it's engineered by Americans.
The prevalent argument is the other way. It's a virus unleashed by China from its lab to cripple the American economy. I don't think so. Because unless there is a proof, unless it is a verified proof, it does not make such claims. You see, after the SARS virus, SARS-1, there was a warning by the well-meaning health scientists in the world that the world is going to witness another deadly virus. I'm sorry to say that we failed. Mankind failed to prepare for such a situation or to go for research which would have found a vaccine. We could manufacture, we are doing a lot of R&D on arms and ammunition. Why don't we make it on health? This is a moral question. It's good that he asked such a question. This HIV AIDS virus, I think it was first detected in America, but the most affected people were Africans. So you cannot say the Americans exported it. Or the Spanish flu, which originated in France, but it came to be called Spanish flu. So, because the name is Spanish flu, you cannot say that it was created by Spain, or it originated in France, so they created it. See, none of the scientific bodies or the medical institutions have come to the conclusion that this is artificially made. Almost it is agreed that this is not germinated. I think the argument itself would be unscientific, unless it is scientifically proved. Let us keep us a point of doubt and blame.
Yes.
Okay.
So we have one more question. Marilyn Sebastian from St. Joseph College, Cozico is asking, can the thoughtless actions of Trump pave the way for China to become a global leader? If so, how it will impact the Indian economy?
How can you say it is only the thoughtless action of Trump? You can put the blame on Trump in different ways. Right? Every blame may not be put on Trump. This causal relationship between America and China started all in 1970s with Nixon. So America started courting China since then. Then globalization. With globalization, American capital went to China. So it has a very favorable market, it has a very favorable labor community, it's very cheap. So from 80s, China changed. They call themselves as market socialism. They rechristened their ideology. It's nothing but a state capitalism that is prevailing in China today. So it was mutually beneficial. You see. So America helped the growth of Chinese economy to their advantage also. The American companies, they found new areas of investment and they could make more profit. The profit triggered globalization. So the blame cannot be put on Trump. In fact, Trump asked these American companies to come back by giving even tax concessions. From 35%, he brought it down to 50%. Then about the Indian economy, was it?
Sir, they were saying, this action of thoughtless action of Trump may pave the way for China to become a global leader, and how it will impact our Indian, our economy, the Indian economy.
They have already become an economic power. That is indisputable fact. Military also it is a global power. They have one of the best advanced weaponry in the world. And now they are becoming a space power also. It's a fact. How this will affect Indian economy? It's already affected Indian economy. That is why we have stopped investing from China because we cannot trust them. That is more political decision than an economic decision. Our politics compel us to take such a decision. Then secondly, we have banned 59 Chinese-based apps. I don't know, I haven't gone into details. We may have to have a different discussion. But there is a school of thought in India. One section of economists say a sudden and abrupt cutting of such trade relationship will not bode good for the Indian economy. Because we depend for the Chinese-made materials and manufacturing units for our industries. So it may affect the economy when we abrogatively break away from trade with China. After all, if my memory is correct, Chinese import from India or India's export to China is only 2%. And India's import from China is more than 5%. It could be more or less. So maybe, purely from trade point of view, we may be a loser for the time being. Anyway, it is good if India became a self-reliant, strong economy.
Sir, we have a question from Dr. Dhanraj. So we haven't talked about it so far. So yes, what about the swing states in USA?
Yeah, the
Yes, sir.
the two survey report, they have said the swing states are swinging back to swinging towards
The
Democratic candidate. Majority of them. There is a change in the attitude of the Trumpites, the Trump supporters. They are not happy with the pandemic. That's the main reason. So there is a change in the attitude of voters in the swing states. In fact, a strong Republican state like North Carolina, which only returns a Republican candidate to the American Congress. In the recent primary, Steve King, a very conservative Republican leader, who is known better for his racist jibes, he was defeated in the primaries. So, fundamentalist Trumpism, it is not endorsed as before. It has lost its place, I think, lost its shine, or even its relevance. Trumpism is losing its relevance. So you cannot live on that.
So on the same thing, we can go back as you were saying, pointing out that the CNN's this survey,
Sorry.
it was saying that if we talk about the electoral college, the difference, I mean, Biden is getting 289 and Trump is getting 247.
Yeah.
So it is a 2% chance of change,
3%.
3% chance of change. So I think talking about the swing states, I think this will make a very huge difference here.
Yeah.
So swing states can, I mean, if the conditions remain such, if there is political unrest, if there is the racial the unrest is there, instability is there, injustice is there, then I think the swing states might change towards the democratic side.
Yeah, they have already have leaned to the Democratic side. They are no more with the Trump, especially the Washington Post, CBS News survey note. They say majority of the swing states they have turned towards the Democrats. Then, see, I said in the beginning itself, if these conditions remain the same, the context, Trump is very unpopular now. So to regain his popularity is extremely difficult. I think the American people are tired of this rhetoric. And Biden is a sober candidate. Many slogans which he was chanting is endorsed by Biden also. He is for American employment, American industry, American manufacturing, and for enhancing American wealth. And also he has his social and economic policies. I think he is trying to placate even the radicals to get the votes of supporters of Gazi Hassan. And so his economic and social policy, they are situated in the left of the center. He has promised a package of $30 billion for the economic and social betterment of the African Americans, for their education, for their business. And he said that it is designed to bridge the gap between the racial wealth disparity and opportunity disparity.
Sir, on the same question, Juanita is asking regarding the Black Lives Matter movement. What can the administration do to make country more inclusive and make general public trust the law enforcement agencies?
What to make it more attractive for racial equality?
Yes, sir.
Can you please repeat?
Okay, regarding the Black Lives Matter movement that is going on in the country, what can be the administration's role? What can they do to make the more country more inclusive and make sure that the public regains the trust on the law?
Yes, I think first the leadership should regain the trust. For that, they should have a reconciliatory attitude approach than challenging it, than calling it as a law and order situation. This is not a law and order situation. This is a social issue. I think I have said before, more than half of the white Americans they support the Black Matter movement. They're sympathetic. So even in the pandemic, is 70% among the death, 70% are from the colored people, the African Americans plus the other non-white community. And those are becoming unemployed. Proportionately, the percentage is much higher among the African Americans. So they are the most vulnerable section of the society. And even the white scholars, they agree that there is a systemic racism still is prevalent in America. It has to be changed. So for this, they have to be empowered. This vulnerable section of the society has to be empowered. And that's why Biden has put forth the package. Yes, the American society has to become more and more inclusive. There is a desire and demand for this. Not in America, across the world. So he has announced a special package. Yesterday we have certain packages in India to uplift the poor, the downtrodden people. And they are slowly or maybe compelled to take on welfare measures. Biden, I think he is trying for a welfare state in America, or he promised to. And he has also special package for women.
Yes. So we'll take last question since there are many questions but which are not related to US elections, but we will be having similar discussions in coming days on various issues. We are organizing various webinars and all these things will be taken during these webinars. So sir, one last question, it's by Ashwati Mahadevan. So she's asking how should America approach economic recovery in the post-COVID scenario? And could America lose out in rebuilding by banning rebuilding because it has already banned H1B1 visas? So will that impact America and how it is going to impact the Indians also there?
America cannot abruptly ban the entry of technocrats. We call it the finished human goods. People also are well qualified. They will be attracted to America. They require it. Because the American companies cannot survive without them for a long time. Till the American education system create such technocrats in future days. Till then they have to. Secondly, as for now, they are much more cheaper than the American techies. So the inevitability of having the Indian technocrats and also cheap employees. I think it is inevitable. They require it. So to say that only Americans, they can desire for, they can aspire for. It may take some time. But I understand. We would like America to be more international. because we want to speak nationalism. We cannot accommodate our own people here. No, we are not ready to make India or use India. The Americans, they are also uh, influenced by this egoistic feeling. When you think your wealth is taken away by somebody else, I don't think they can tolerate it. The spirit of nationalism may turn out to be the spirit of egoism. That is growing all over the world.
Thank you so much, sir, for this, for coming and sharing your insights on the US presidential elections in the time of the COVID. Thank you all for being here. To know more about the work we do, check out our website www.cppr.in. CPPR is also active on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. The handle we use is CPPR India. Catch live updates of today's talk as well as the photos on CPPR Talk series. Thank you so much.